insight onto
The actions that were illegal?
you
Where they
said it
felt
was a
like it was all
whistleblower.
being withheld from council, number one. Okay, did you know about it?
I mean, it is an operational decision, so,
Not when they come and say, we need $80,000 for a med box, and then we find out that a large portion of that went for this problem. Yeah, I have a problem with that. I'll discuss it.
I don't know
I don't think
how
I
you
know what you
don't
mean.
think that you have a problem with that, especially when you have people that are coming. I mean, the same people that came to her are not the same people that have spoken with me. And these were
Correct.
people employed by the town that were in part-time basis, and then all of a sudden they get shut down from all their hours, cut down so extremely to the point where not working for weeks. And then there were the excuse given to them, we had a glitch in the system and nothing else was discussed. I think that's a big problem, and the fact that they were upset because we had no clue what they were talking about, I mean, that even to me makes me even more upset.
okay. But
And
what
if
was
you
the
did know
illegal
about
action?
it, I want to know exactly when you actually found out about it, because you are part of that department, that you're part of that committee.
Oh, they didn't report to us in the committee or make any requests to the committee.
Well, that should have been, because the reality is, if you have over 30 employees that are not getting paid what they should have been paying for weeks, I have a problem with that.
So, I mean, I support us making this change, and if they'd come to us and requested an additional amount of funding, I would have supported that as well. But the fact is that this is an operational decision. They are charged with maintaining a budget. The leadership did, I think, a great job of trying to manage a really tough decision and stick within the budget that they're given. They're tasked to manage multiple things. One of those things is staff time, one of those things is life safety in the community, and one of those things is the budget that we approve for them. And so I understand what a really difficult position that was, and it's an operational decision. Operational decisions happen all the time. Council's role is not to make operational decisions. And when you classify something as whistleblowing, you add a connotation that there's illegal activities happening. I support us doing this, but whistleblowing is an interesting choice of words. And I'm curious what the illegal activity was, or the activity that qualified this as whistleblowing, and what policies council could make that would make people more comfortable with oversight of operational activities.
Okay, Randy, would you like to explain exactly how the $80,000 was used that we were requested to move at the last council meeting first?
Go ahead, Randy.
The drug box money was used for the drug box.
How much was that?
The total?
Around 40,000.
It was like 45,000. That's actually purchase of the box and supplies, correct?
Box supplies.
Okay, so when I looked on my agenda, okay, and I questioned that item, we were told that the entire $80,000 was going for that purchase. Then I find out that that's not what happened at all, okay? That was kept from council. I don't know if you call it illegal or not, but I'd certainly call it not being accountable and transparent.
You know, our job right here in town council is oversight and not rubber stamping. And I am not a rubber stamper. I want to make sure that I'm seeing what I'm doing and I'm making these decisions correctly. I look at the budgets, I look at everything that we're doing because, why? Because I have to answer to the citizens. And when I have citizens coming to me and saying, hey, Mrs. Hicks, do you know about this? Do you know about that? Do you know? I'm looking for other jobs because the town is not paying my payroll. That's problematic, Tanya, especially when we're trying to recruit more people. I don't know why you think that way, but I have my personal opinion on this, and I do think that this was something that should have been brought up to town council. This happened back in March. We heard about this in the last week, and I heard this actually just within the last couple of weeks that this took place over like almost 3 months ago, and we're just finding out because we brought it up to town council in the last town council meeting. So I do not agree on rubber stamping things. I want to make sure that if I'm here sitting down in this seat, that I'm actually looking at everything, I'm working for the citizens of Christiansburg, and I'm not just doing whatever Randy says, and that's not attacking you, Randy.
So there was nothing illegal.
Yeah, I don't
That-
think so either.
okay.
People are hired on a part-time basis to use as needed. And I don't recall, I've been sitting here for the last several weeks. I don't ever remember an $80,000 budget amendment item for the rescue squad. I remember 45,000 that we, moved over to, cover, they had tried to fund the budget box out of their own operational expenses. And then when the glitch in the accounting system occurred, then we had to send $45,000 towards salaries, is that correct?
45,000 was dispersed between a couple different line items that related to some overages that were related to the drug watch program.
Okay.
So for years, we have been needing people for EMS and fire department. And then all of a sudden, no, we don't need anybody, we can wait until November. And then all of a sudden, we're not using all our vehicles, ambulances, because the reality is, we don't have the staffing to be able to provide those services, so we are having to call the county. I do think that that whistleblowing person was correct about this. I mean, this can cost people's lives, and I'm not over here to play with people's lives.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Bishop. Councilwoman Bowman.
I'm sorry, repeat what we're voting on.
Resolution.
$20,000 we're gonna move over to part-time pay.
Okay, yes, aye.
Councilwoman Hicks.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hockett.
Aye.
Councilman Wilson.
Aye.
That is 5-0, thank you. Resolution for appropriations for the fiscal year budget 24-25, budget amendment number 5.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments?
Once again, this was actually
Thank you.
brought up by us to be brought up as a budget amendment, because I want to make sure that our part-timers are paid, and we do have enough people to provide the services that are required in the town.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, there was no point that we didn't meet our, whatever services that we're required to provide, right? We were able to provide all the services that are required.
We maintained the minimum staffing level and we're still above 90% cracked out response times.
Where they're close to the county to provide some of the services when we were unable to have enough staffing.
We do that back and forth all the time.
That happens
I
all the time.
understand, but it
That
happened
happens all
more
the
than
time,
this
so
month.
it's,
No. You're
You're-
way off.
Here goes the person that didn't know nothing about it.
that's
Okay.
enough. Madam Clerk?
Councilman Bishop. Councilwoman Bowman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hockett.
Aye.
Councilman Wilson.
Aye.
It's 5-0, thank you. LoopNet, loop.net, and I had to take a minute and look that thing up. Randy, apparently we have been using a service to market land, is that correct?
Correct. About a year ago, Councilwoman Hicks had suggested using LoopNet to market the park property, the 5 acres that we have at Huckleberry Park. We engaged in basically a year-long agreement to get the $99 a month rate, and that agreement runs out in June. And I was just basically going to see if council would want to continue the agreement or not. Passing around a report that is generated from basically the software. Generally, I've probably gotten a few calls from it. I can't say that I've gotten any hard interest from it. But you can see there where, and actually it will have a list of who's looked at the property if you look at the rear. Essentially all over the country, although heavily concentrated around Virginia.
So LoopNet is especially for commercial properties, really,
It-
and so, when you look at this, probably those, viewers that are 638 people, the most likely are investors. And that's the way I look at it. If you wanna sell a house, you sell on, on Realtor.com or something like that, but as far as like a business or land that is gonna be commercial, I would just say LoopNet is actually one of those that you wanna kind of have and use for that. I really, feel from the beginning this should be advertised nationally. And we can obviously even do this for free under Zillow and everything. There is no charge for that.
So,
But I do think that it's in our best interest to get the most views on this and the most people that can see it.
So are you making a motion to approve continuing this?
I will say yes, and that's because there is no point in having a sign just down in Christiansburg where nobody else is gonna see it besides us.
So you make a motion to approve?
Yeah, I make a motion to approve.
Okay, second.
motion and a second, any further discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Bishop,
Aye.
Councilwoman Bowman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hockett,
Aye.
Councilman Wilson,
Aye.
That's 5-0, thank you. Request by property owner at 5 Roanoke Street, tax parcel 527A-101, for town to lease the mural located in the rear building wall in accordance with Christiansburg Town Code, Section 42-704A. Randy, this is your baby, and talk into the microphone.
Yes. The property in question is 5 Roanoke Street. It's, the front of the building is the Iron Tree Brewery. The back of the building has a small business in there, a snake clamp business, where the property owner has a small manufacturing, I guess, for assembly business. They, on the back wall of the building, there is a mural, and I received a concern about it, of whether it would need a permit or not. I spoke to Reed in regards to the mural, and he and I agreed that it would be considered a sign under our ordinance, and therefore I approached the property owner in regards to the building and the mural. The property owner has basically requested that we consider it a art display rather than basically something requiring a permit. There is a code section that allows that, and we have done that with the Cambria mural, the Spirit of Cambria. We entered into agreement with the building owner there, and basically we have a right to have the mural there as a town art display, and that was a town decision. So he's asking that you consider this the same as the Cambria mural. He says he doesn't really care about lease fee or anything like that, although it might have to be a nominal penny lease or something like that for whatever time period if you did want to actually have a lease agreement for it. But I simply leave that completely at town council's discretion.
How many, which council members asked you to put this on the agenda?
No council members have.
Okay, and so I have big issues about this, especially because I feel like that's a freedom of speech stand, as far as what he's doing right now is on the back of a building. I don't think nobody in the town probably will care about what's on the back of the building, to be honest with you. I think it is surprising to see that there because we're in Christiansburg, Virginia, and it's, it's right next to the courthouse. Do I like it? No, but that's their personal views. Do I think we should be getting into agreements? I think we're touching a very touchy subject because then all of a sudden that may not be considered a sign, that may actually be considered freedom of speech. And so I do not believe that we should start this because then all of a sudden, we got an email today about somebody wanting to put Trump on this how they're building and everything else and having at least tours the town. So I think we're opening up ourselves for even lawsuits in the future. Now, as far as I guess I shouldn't say that, but even the business that I'm in right now, I'm not allowed to put flowers in there because it will also be considered a sign. So I don't know where that's really touchy, especially because it's freedom of speech. I see it as a freedom of speech. I don't see it as a sign. And I do think maybe our sign ordinance really needs to be looked up again because things like this are gonna happen more than once. And I think it's concerning because we're opening ourselves to lawsuits possibly in the future.
So I make a motion that we take no action on item G as a council.
Second.
You have a motion and a second, any discussion?
Yeah, actually, I agree. I think that I would really like to see us adjust how we define signs, be clear about what it is and isn't, to allow for murals, and property owners to paint murals if they want within some kind of code guideline. And it's something that I think we've we've kind of mentioned in Central Business Committee, it's something we could bring up at our next meeting for discussion, and then maybe bring back to council and work with the town staff to put something together, but I'd really like to see us change that.
I'm certainly fine with that. One thing, I guess I'll just mention, we did make a code change several years ago, I think about 7 years ago, in regards to federal court case that basically our code has to be content neutral. And unfortunately, it's, I guess, good and bad that it's kind of a catch-all now that
I
it's
understand.
content neutral. So therefore, I felt compelled, the fact that I did have a comment about it, to look at it. And by the definition of sign, I did feel it met the definition of sign under our code.
And
And
I
like say,
trust you and agree with that.
I agree with, Reed agrees with my opinion on that. I do think it's a shame that it is such a catch-all. And the fact that we did have to go to content-neutral code, it really is a catch-all. I'm glad to try to look at amending our code and working with Reed to rewrite it. Although, and very glad to do that. I'll just tell you, it's tough to do, though, because you can't separate a difference in message.
Understood.
So, can we separate a difference between art and a message? I don't know. It's gonna be tough if we do it, but I'm glad to give it a try.
Okay.
I would like to see this come into a work session so that the discussion can be open to all of the town council to have input on this. And I do think we have some constitutional issues with our current sign ordinance, and I would like to see us align with the United States Constitution.
I agree that I think if we were to enter into any type of lease, we're setting a precedent that we may not be able to get out from under. So, we have a motion and a second to take no action. Madam Clerk?
Councilman Bishop. Councilwoman Bowman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hockett.
Aye.
Councilman Wilson.
Aye.
With that, with council's permission, can I hold off on taking any enforcement action on it being a sign until we basically look into this?
Does it meet our sign square footage requirement? I think you told me it's a little bit over.
What we allow is 10% of the wall area up to 200 square foot maximum is what we allow if it's a wall sign.
I have a question for you, Randy. The business, you said there is a business on the back. What's the name of it?
It's a snake clamp business.
A snake flame? What is that?
You know the
Long-
little gadgets
long
that you
mechanical
reach up
trap.
and you drop something behind
Like
it on the
long,
table?
Oh.
long-range
Okay.
clamps. You use
That's
them
the name?
For surgery, yeah, that's
That's
what
what
they're
he
called.
calls
Use
it.
them for surgery, mechanics use them a lot.
No, but what's the name of the business? The snake flame?
Snake Clamp Inc., I believe.
Oh.
Something
What
to that
does the
extent.
snake clamp have to do anything with Ukraine and the
It,
thing
it doesn't,
that?
it doesn't relate to either of the businesses on the property at all. And that's, again, our code being content neutral. Formerly, we had provisions in there for murals, and you could have gotten a permit for a mural under the prior code. But basically, we had to, like I say, had to do a rewrite several years ago because of a Supreme Court case that said you can't distinguish any type of message, basically. So, like I say, typically, codes would have distinctions between church and religious messages, political messages, things like that, versus advertising messages. And basically, the Supreme Court says you can't do that now.
I'm in agreement to take no action until we come up with something better amongst the group of us.
So you want to give him some time?
Just grace period while we study the code revision.
Okay, that's good.
Now I see it. It's like a bird cramping those leaves.
Something, so I don't know, but anyway.
I'm looking at this thing trying to figure out what it is.
All right, so. Yes. We'll now close the discussion and action by mayor and council. Staff reports, town manager.
I'll just point out, this coming May 30th, Friday, is the Beach Bash at the Aquatic Center from 5:30 to 8. Saturday, June 14th, is Rockin' Maine from 5 to 9 downtown.
And that's down this end of town, right?
Correct. We'd like to set the public hearing for the water rate increase for June 10th. And I'd had a question in regards to what the balance of the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund is. And we had got that in the last work session. The answer to that, of course, literally changes day to day because of our expenses with Public Works and our capital projects. Although if you look in the proposed budget on page 78 of the document, it's page 86 of the PDF, you will find basically what the balance would be at the end of the fiscal year. It would be 2.16 million currently, and that's with the additional dollar water rate increase included, which is, like I say, that accounts for approximately $500,000 of that. This year, we're spending $9.468 million on capital. And the use of the fund balance this year is $6.84 million. So we're basically taking the fund balance down by use of capital. So we should, at the end of the fiscal year, be at 2.16 million. And that includes the approximately $500,000 from the dollar increase.
And then it would be $2.1,100,000 if we didn't.
It would be approximately 1.6 million if we did not do the dollar increase.
Oh,
So we'd be taking more out of funding to work on these capital projects. Is that
going
correct?
600,000.
Well, yes, yeah, we wouldn't be building the fund balance as much.
No, which is fine.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Reed?
Nothing to report, Mayor. Thank you.
We got any other staff to report? Council reports, Mr. Bishop,
No report.
Ms. Hicks.
Thank you for all the military people, past and now, on their day yesterday and every day, for helping our country.
Mrs. Hockett?
Yes, last week, Councilwoman Hicks brought up during the budget work session that, she accused me of being on the town sewer and not paying for town sewer. And I let her know I had a septic tank. And she let me know that she knew from many years ago, maybe, at least 15 years ago, that my house, before I owned it, had been foreclosed, and that she knew that that house was on the town sewer and not being charged. And she knew that information, I guess, when she learned it. She knew that information when she came to be a council person, and she knew that
Well, that happened
information
years ago, Tanya.
when I came to be a council person. But for some reason, last week, she decided to bring it up in a public session. And I don't know the reasons, I can guess them, but I felt that it was very manipulative. And I did put in a request form to Public Works. And I asked Public Works to come and verify my connection. Public Works came out and they did all the tests that they do, and they confirmed that I am not on town sewer. I do in fact have a septic tank. And so I just want to say that I didn't appreciate that. If it was about making sure that every person who was on town sewer was paying for town sewer, then I would have heard about it maybe by a phone call or an email. I would have heard about it certainly within the last 3.5 years. I didn't. I think that we weren't talking about the sewer, we were talking about the citizens. The citizens and the impact of a water increase. And she brought it back to the sewer continuously to bring that up in a public session. And I don't appreciate that. And you were wrong, and you lied, and I forgive you for doing that, but I hope that you'll think more about the citizens that we're here to discuss versus just thinking about me and what you can say negatively about me in the next session.
Well, I'm trying to find out if you have a septic tank, which you say you have. When was the last time you actually had it pumped?
I just don't understand how that's any of your business.
Well, I think it is
And
because
it is not.
from my understanding was that it was hooked up to the town. So I really would like to find out that information.
You had a wrong understanding. You can FOIA the Public Works requests if you need to see them.
I will. Because I didn't just find out when you were a town council member, I knew years ago.
Right, that's what I'm saying, and you did nothing about it when you got to council, you
I
didn't even
did, I
do.
asked you years ago, and you didn't
No,
reply, you say you were not
Absolutely
paying
not,
for it.
absolutely
Yeah, you
not.
did.
You asked me last
All
week.
right, very good, that's enough. Ms. Bowman?
Nothing except for Agency on Aging, which I think I reported pretty much on the last meeting we had. They've had a 40% increase in food cost, and they've had to make some dramatic changes to a lot of their programs because of DOGE and some other cuts to funding. But anyway, so they are having their big gala. I forgot the dates on that.
Please send it to us.
Yeah, look that up and see. But it's a fundraising opportunity. It's very nice every year. So you can go on the town website and get the information if you want tickets to that. But they could use the help if you want to go to a nice dinner.
Okay, thank you. Now, I have had a request from Christy Salmon, who is with Go Rail Virginia. They are urging Congress to support continued federal funding for rail safety and grade crossing programs. And they have asked me as mayor in the town, would we want to join into that program? And it's basically to continue to get funding to improve the rail crossings and this type of thing throughout the state of Virginia. And after the meeting last time, Chris Waltz gave me this flyer, and it's apparently the Norfolk and Southern, when you're, at times when you're stopped at a rail crossing for the train to come by, they're gonna start handing out these little books coloring books to the parents for their children to learn about rail crossing safety. And I thought, rather than just say, yeah, let's do this, I'd like to ask council, what's your thought on joining this? This doesn't cost us anything. They would be sending a letter to the, they'll be sending a letter to the Senate, a letter to the House Committee on Transportation, urging them to prioritize and performance through innovation as to try to make the rail crossings throughout the state safer.
So the program is just to promote rail safety then?
It's the crossing, the rail crossing, there's some crossings that do have a gate and some that don't. I think their end goal is trying to get some type of safety item at these rail stations, and they're just using this as kind of a way to promote to the children what they're doing, so.
Thank
So it's
you.
not gonna cost us anything, but
No, it's
it's
just
going
all-
to be displayed at our locations, rec center, or where is it gonna be?
This, Norfolk and Southern is gonna hand these out at the rail crossings when they have, like Canberra freight trains, the 2-hour delay over there. They're supposed to be having people do this. This is not something that to do with this, but it was just brought up to me that Norfolk and Southern is trying to educate parents and their children about the safe things and what to do and what not to do. I guess don't try to ride your bicycle through the thing when the train's coming, that type of thing. So all I'm asking is if this is something that the council is interested in pursuing for the crossing safety.
I have no objection to it.
Me either, I think it sounds
I
great.
don't know, I actually think that it would be good to have it at the rec center and stuff when they have their events downtown, when they have the tables for the party.
Yeah, and that's great, but that would be up to Norfolk and Southern to do. That's
Yeah.
not part of our document. And I can certainly open that up to them. But if you're interested, I'm just signing a form that says that we would participate and do support the Go
Can I
Rail.
actually take a look before? I say yes.
Look at what?
The book, let me see.
A book has nothing to do with what I'm asking here.
Okay. Well, I think you're asking for this support.
No, I just showed that, so Chris brought this to my attention, that's what they were doing for Norfolk and Southern to promote rail. This is for the nation, for funding.
We're just saying that,
I am
that
so
we as
sorry.
we're just saying that we as a council
Support.
support this organization's effort to make rail crossing safety a priority.
Is
And
that a
it's-
nonprofit or is that part of Norfolk Sovereign?
Yeah, it's a nonprofit.
They're gonna be a nonprofit that we have no financial obligation to.
But I'm sure they get funding from the state.
Well, that's what they're trying to continue to do, is to get national funding.
I think as far as the government is trying to cut spending and everything, for information, everything, but I do not think that I wanna cost the government any more money right now, so I do think that I'll probably just keep on that one.
All right, Ms. Bowman?
Nay.
Well, we're not voting, but this is general.
Nay.
So you two don't support it? Three council members say you think it's a good one?
I'd like to have more information myself, other than tonight.
How about if I will just email you this document?
That would be great.
Yeah.
But I would like to get this thing done. I mean, you can email me back with what you think. It's not a vote. But I need to sign the document at some point, certainly by the first part of June. Anything else to come before council? We are adjourned.